all of a sudden he hears that third bedroom open and slam shut, and he comes up the stairs and around the corner to realize that room is padlocked shut, and that can't have happened. So, once again, you have found yourself at the campsite of the Orator. Please pull up a chair. As you can see, my fire is stoked, which means I have another tale to tell. But before we begin, if you do find yourself enjoying this kind of content, first-hand accounts of the supernatural, paranormal, things that go bump in the night, then make sure to like this video, but also subscribe to my channel and click the notification bell. You'll get notified every time I upload new content, and I can continue to do what I love, which is telling terrifying tales. Second, all of the stories that I feature on my channel are first-hand, true accounts of the supernatural and paranormal. So if you or anybody you know has a story that you would like to have featured on my channel one day, please either reach out in the comments below or in the description of this video. I'll have all of my social medias posted. You can reach out to me on any one of those. We'll find a time to get together. I can collect your story and tell it here on the channel one day. Now, with all of that out of the way, let's get on to today's first story. It is a tale that I call The Hiding Spot. So our story begins with Adam. He is about 7, 8 years old. He's in 2nd grade. And his parents get a divorce. And he comes from a pretty broken home where they didn't have a lot of money and very little means to begin with. And every house they had ever lived in had been a mobile home, like literally like on wheels kind of mobile home. But when his mom and dad got separated, him, his 2 older brothers, and his older sister all moved in with his mom, and they moved into this really janky rental property. And the house was pretty rough, but it was also kind of bigger than what he was used to. And so when you first walk into this house, you enter into the living room, and there's actually stairs that go upstairs. So it's for the first time in his life, Adam had an upstairs and a downstairs in his house. So you enter the living room, there's the stairs that go upstairs. If you move further through the house, you'll enter like a kitchen area, and there's sort of also a dining room attached to it. And then if you go to the back of the house, there's also a master bedroom and a bathroom. Well, in that kitchen area, there's also a doorway that leads downstairs into this cellar. And so you have the cellar, and it's completely unfinished. It's got a dirt floor. And then if you were to go upstairs, you'll notice that there's 2 bedrooms, one for him and his middle oldest brother, and then his sister, his older sister, also has a bedroom. And then that 3rd room, when they moved in, it was padlocked shut, and the renters that rented it to him did not have a key, and so that room just remained padlocked shut, and nobody could get into it. And there were a bunch of problems with this house. It was just really old and rickety. Literally, the outsides were tiled and roofing shingles. The stove had a propane tank, an external propane tank that they used to start the stove. Just the stairs were wobbly and creaky. This was not a house that was really fit for living in, but for Adam, it's the first time he's got a big house in his life, and he loved it. And Adam's absolute favorite part of this house was downstairs in the cellar. Underneath the stairs, there was this big open area that you couldn't see, and it was like just this hidden area, and it was just Adam's secret place. He just loved going down there and hiding there, especially when they had problems or he was worried about stuff. That was like his go-to place in the house that was sort of his and his alone. And so they move into this house. You got Adam, and he's in 2nd grade, so like I said, 7, 8 years old. His older sister is about 15 years old, and then his 2 older brothers are about 17 and 20. And the 20-year-old brother, he didn't even really live with them. He was kind of out on his own, but every once in a while he'd stop in sort of unannounced and kind of stay there. The 17-year-old brother, he was pretty much gone at friends' houses all the time. And then once, his parents got divorced, Adam's mom, on the weekends, she'd kind of always be out dating guys or just sort of out on the town and didn't really do a great job of being with Adam and raising him. So that fell on Adam's sister, who's about 15 years old. Unfortunately, she's a 15-year-old girl. responsibility is not very high on her priority list, and so most weekends when she was supposed to stay home and watch Adam, she would just kind of go to parties and hang out with friends, and literally Adam, a 7-year-old boy, would just be left alone at home on the weekends. And the only person who knew this was his sister, who was the one who was supposed to be watching him. And so they move into this house, and pretty much right away, Adam noticed paranormal activity. And it was all of the classic simple stuff. He'd hear people walking through the house when almost no one was home, or people were definitely not walking through the house. He'd hear doors opening and closing. He'd see shadows out of the corners of his eyes. All of the classic stuff that you normally hear about in a haunting. But he's a 7-year-old kid, and they're in a really busy household, and no one's really paying attention to anything. So nobody believes Adam when he tells them this stuff. And so he just kind of goes on living there and doesn't really worry that much about it. Until a particular Saturday, he is once again home alone. His sister's supposed to be there watching him, but she just doesn't. And he's on the couch in the living room watching TV, when all of a sudden he very distinctly hears footsteps walking downstairs, and he hears this little girl giggle. And he, turns the volume down on the TV, and he's listening, and he can hear her walking downstairs, and so he pivots and he looks over to the staircase, and there's no one there, but as he's looking at it, he can hear the footsteps walking down the stairs, and he's looking at where they should be, and there's nothing there, and he's hearing this little girl giggle, and then she runs through the living room, into the kitchen, and then he hears her walk down the cellar stairs, and he's just waiting. And he can hear his heart beating in his chest, and his cold sweat's going on. He's freaking out, but he's just sitting there thinking, okay, well, at least she's down in the cellar, and I don't have to worry about it. And about 15 minutes goes by, he finally thinks, okay, I'm good, no big deal. Maybe I just heard something, I don't know. He's going to turn the TV back on, and all of a sudden, he hears footsteps running upstairs from the cellar, through the kitchen, and they stop at the base of the living room. And he's looking at, the entrance to the living room from the kitchen, and there should be something there, because he heard the footsteps right there, and he's looking, and there's just nothing there. And he's just in this cold sweat. He's terrified. He doesn't know what to do. And he's just waiting and waiting and waiting. And after a certain period of time, when nothing else happens, he just sort of settles back into the couch. He turns the TV back on, but he keeps the volume really low, and he just waits. And at some point, his sister returned. Nothing else really to report. He tells her about it. She, of course, completely dismisses him. And so that's sort of it. So then over the next 3 weekends, pretty much the exact same thing repeats himself. He is home alone, his sister's gone, and she's supposed to be watching him. He hears the footsteps coming downstairs, the giggling, there's no one there, and he's kind of getting used to this at this point, when all of a sudden, 3 weeks later, things escalate. So this has now happened for 3 weeks in a row. We're now on week 4. And he's already expecting it. He's already home alone. It's at night. He's just waiting for this girl to come downstairs and hear the girls giggling. And instead, from behind him, sort of in that kitchen area, he hears, "Hey, do you want to come play with me? I'm bored." And so he, once again, mutes the TV, and he's listening, trying to hear maybe where it came from. And he's thinking, maybe his sister had a radio on in a distant room or something like that. And then now, with everything completely silent, he hears it again. Let's play. And he whips around, because he heard it coming from the kitchen, and standing in the doorway between the living room and the kitchen is this girl. And she's about his age, and she's got a dress on, she's got long dark hair, and she just looks like a regular girl. And he actually thinks that it's maybe one of the neighbor girls that kind of lived behind them. And so he's like, what the heck is she doing in our house? And right before he asks her this, why are you here? She just runs through the living room and upstairs. And he chases after her. He thinks it's just another girl. And so he runs upstairs, and he sees her kind of go around the corner where he can't see it. She goes past his bedroom, past his sister's bedroom, and so he's following her upstairs, when all of a sudden he hears that third bedroom open and slam shut, and he comes up the stairs and around the corner to realize that room is padlocked shut, and that can't have happened. And so he is super freaked out. He literally runs back downstairs and outside to their detached garage, doesn't even put shoes on, and he just sits out there. And he's like, eventually someone's going to come home, and once they come home, then I'll go back in that house. But I ain't going in that house alone. And this happened to be one of the nights that his oldest brother, the 20-year-old, popped in. And so he hears his brother pull in, he comes out of the garage, and his brother is like, what the heck is going on here? And Adam, he starts to explain, and his brother stops, he's like, wait, you're here completely alone? Where's Mom? Where's our sister? And he's, Mom's gone, and our sister left, and it's just me. And so his brother's pretty upset about that, but then he's like, all right, well, tell me what happened. Why are you out here? Why are you so freaked out? And Adam explains, the girl and what she looked like and what happened. And his brother, just like everybody else, is getting ready to dismiss him when they're outside kind of looking at the house and stuff like that. He looks up, and in that room that's padlocked, a light is on. And he's like, okay, well, that is pretty weird. But Adam is still freaking out and does not want to go in the house. And so he's like, all right, let's just chill here until you calm down, and then we'll go figure out what's going on. At some point, while they're out in the garage still calming down, their sister does get home. And, Adam's brother first chews her out, being like, you can't leave a 7-year-old alone at the house. What's wrong with you? But then after they kind of calm down and everything's settled, they're like, all right, let's go figure out what's going on in the house, why the light's on, all that kind of stuff. So they go in, they tell Adam, sit down on the couch in the living room, we'll investigate, you don't have to worry about it. So Adam, he's sitting there on the couch, he hears his brother and sister walk upstairs, and he can hear them kind of fumbling with that padlock. Now, they've just never tried to open it before, it's an extra storage place, they don't really need the room, so it's not a big deal. But at this point, they want to get in and figure out what's going on. It's still padlocked, so they don't think Adam's lying, but they don't know exactly what's going on. So he can hear him fumbling with the padlock. Eventually, they hear it break off. He hears the door open, and he hears him in the room shuffling around. And then all of a sudden, he hears his sister scream, his brother scream, what the heck is going on? They run out. He hears the light click off, the door slam. They both come running downstairs. They scoop Adam up. They take him out to the car. And right then and there, they drive him all the way to his grandparents' house, which is 2 towns over. They show up at their grandparents' house. They go in. Their grandparents are like, what the heck are you doing here? And basically, Adam's older brother was like, Adam, you start the story. Tell them what you saw, and then I'll kind of finish it up. So Adam explains, hey, listen, I was home alone. I saw this girl, da-da-da-da-da. He kind of goes through the whole story. And then Adam's brother takes it over and says, we went upstairs to look and see what's going on. We had to break this padlock to get in. And when we were in there, at first, it just kind of looked like an old storage room. They had a bunch of old furniture up there, and there were boxes and bags and stuff kind of put up there. It was clear that this was just a room they had put a bunch of old stuff in, and it was their storage area. And so they're kind of looking around, and Adam's brother comes upon a picture, and in the picture is the little girl that Adam described, about 7 years old, long dark hair, cute white dress, basically to the letter of what Adam described, looked like the girl in this picture. And so he's on edge, but then his sister sees this rug that's on the ground, and she's looking at this rug, and there's this deep red stain in it, and she thinks maybe it's wine, but then as she's getting closer, she thinks this is almost certainly blood. And so that blood, coupled with the picture, freaks them out. They yell and scream and run out of the door, and then that's what Adam heard when they ran downstairs. So they explain all this, and then basically Adam, 7-year-old kid, he doesn't know a ton about what happens next. They never move back into that house. They end up all moving into their grandparents' house, and that's pretty much it until 20 years later. Adam is a corrections officer, and he works in the hometown that he grew up in, so he never moved away. And he's kind of going through different files for different inmates, and one of them that he comes across has the address of that old house. Naturally, he's very intrigued, so he opens up the file and he looks. And basically that file, coupled with some additional research that he did after that, laid this out. They leave the house. They go to their grandparents' house. Eventually their mom gets called. She comes, she sits down, she hears the story. She calls the police. and the police go in and investigate and see what's going on. Basically, their mom had rented this house for cash, and every single month she would just send a check to a certain address, and that was it. She didn't really know the people she rented from. It really wasn't a legal renting situation. It was just send us the cash and you could rent this house. And so that the police, they go in and they're trying to figure out what's going on, and they realize, this house is just not a house you could live in. We need to condemn this house. And so they reach out to the owners, who have since fled to Arizona, and they reach out to them and they're like, this house is not livable. We need you guys to come back here. We're going to tear this house down and condemn it. And the owners, they keep trying to avoid the police. They don't want anything to do with it. They're like, just leave us alone. And so eventually the house gets torn down, and in Adam's secret hiding place below the stairs in the cellar, they find that little girl's corpse. The parents had apparently killed her and then fled to Arizona. And then at some point the cops apprehended them, brought them back, put them in prison, and 20 years later, Adam comes across their file. And so that's going to do it for today's tales. If you found that you loved these stories, these kinds of stories, supernatural, paranormal, things that go bump in the night, then please like this video, but subscribe to my channel and click the notification bell. That way you get notified every time I upload new content, but it also helps me to continue to do what I love, which is telling terrifying tales. Second, if you or anybody you know does have a supernatural story, supernatural or paranormal, anything in that vein, and you would like to be featured on the Orator channel, then please either comment below or reach out to me on my social media. We will get together. I will collect your story, and then one day, hopefully, we can feature you here on the Orator. So please, until next time, pull up a chair, my fire will be stoked, and I will have another tale to tell.